because everything has passed. There's no reason why this won't pass. All I have to do is just keep getting to the next moment. And then the sun will come up and it will be easier in the morning. Hello friends, John Dalton here, Further Emergence Podcast, where we go into love, consciousness, and the mystery. And in this episode, we're going into worrying and praying, getting what you want, what works in your favor, spreading light everywhere you go, and the darkest night and the sunrise. Now let's have a look at some of the memes on the Further Emergence Instagram feed. The first one says, "We live in an attraction-based universe. Worrying about something is the same as praying for it to happen." It's pretty shocking, really, isn't it? The idea that worrying about something is the same as praying for it to happen. Normally when we think about praying, we think about getting down on our knees and going, "Oh, please, God, let this thing happen." And it's not like when we're worrying about something, we're going, "Please, God, let this thing happen." But the dynamic is the same. And the dynamic is to do with, we live in an attractive universe. Not so much like it's beautiful. I mean, it is beautiful. Of course it's beautiful. But not that kind of attractive. The sort of attractive that's to do with what we think about consistently with a lot of intense emotion. We do kind of pull it towards us. There was a very famous tree in the middle of a desert. It was there for, hundreds of years. And somebody ran into it. There was nothing else around for miles, for years. Somebody crashed into it. Now, I think that's a really good example of how it works. I'm not saying the person was driving along going, "Don't crash into the tree, don't crash into the tree." But I mean, what are the chances of crashing into that tree? Pretty slim. And yet this person managed to do it. And we are a little bit like that. Like the other way I think about it is, you fall overboard, you're splashing around, you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna drown, I don't want to drown, I don't want to drown." Somebody throws you one of those life ring things, and you're sort of splashing towards it going, "I don't want to drown, I don't want to drown." And the more you do that, the more you push it away, the more your splashing pushes it away. And it's kind of the same, worrying about what we don't want, or worrying is this. We're kind of focused on it. We're like, "Oh," because apparently our subconscious doesn't register the subtle nuances of the way we think. It's like the thing about, if you say, "Oh, don't forget to bring that home," or "I mustn't forget to bring that home." It's like our mind, our subconscious doesn't hear the don't. And all it hears is, "Forget to bring that home." And that's why it's kind of, I'm not so sure exactly how, true this is, but it's certainly been true in my experience. So I'm very careful not to kind of think like in terms of, the thing I want with the don't in front of it. I always think of it in terms of like, remember, I must remember to do this, rather than I mustn't forget to do this, because I kind of know my mind doesn't hear the mustn't. It just hears, "Yeah, forget to do that now." But then on another level, deeper level, worrying is a loop. If you've ever been worried about something, you know the way it goes. You kind of go, your mind is trying to protect you. It's trying to come up with all the solutions to the problem. And you're like, "Oh yeah, I'll do that, and then I'll do that, I'll do that." And you go all the way around the clock face. And eventually you're back where you started. And then it just goes around again. And you're just turning it over and turning it over and turning it over. And that's a little bit like, Dune is kind of popular at the moment. The way they attract the sandworms is is through movement. You know, they walk on the sand and that attracts the sandworms. And if they want to try and ride one of the sandworms, they put one of these thumpers in. And it's like dum, dum, dum. I don't know how they're handling that in the new movies. I just know from reading the books. But anyway, the thumping is a little bit like, our worrying is a little bit like the thumping, you know? Because we're focused on this thing. Like, oh, I don't want that to happen. I don't want this thing to happen. So we like dump, dump, dump. We're thumping away. And of course, we're attracting the thing we want to happen. And it's not like, it's not personal. You know, it's a neutral field. And it kind of will just give us whatever we focus on with a lot of intensity and a lot of emotion. So if we're very high emotion, like, well, then that's the thing we're going to draw to us. I don't know why it's like this, but it just seems to be the case. And that's why it's not just Pollyanna to like think positively. It's like just understanding the mechanics of how the whole thing works. Of like, I'm not going to focus too much on the thing. I'm not going to let myself worry. It's not great for your mental health, obviously, but it brings the thing. It brings the thing I'm worried about. And that's pants, you know, we don't want to do that. So yeah, we live in an attractive universe. It's lovely, but it's based on attraction, and it like attracts like. So if we have this thing that we're worried about, we're bringing it towards us. So just from a very practical point of view, yeah, it's kind of makes sense not to do that. Makes sense to steer my little boat of thoughts, steer it in the direction of the future I want, not the future I don't want. Next one says, you don't get what you want, you get who you are. You don't get what you want, you get who you are. That's brutal, isn't it? Unfortunately, it's true, but it's still brutal. But it requires a lot of kindness to yourself to apply that to your life. And the kindness comes from, you know, things are the way they are, not because there's something fundamentally wrong with me. It's because things I've picked up along the way, things that I believe are true, and they have shaped the way my reality, my existence, you know. So it's like if you can use it as a barometer to see where you're at. You can just look around, you know. You don't think, it's my birthright to be a millionaire, and that's true. But you can use this to look around and go, this is what's happening around me. This is what I believe is possible for me at the moment. That's not to say you can't change any of that, but it's like you're stock taking. You're stock taking what you believe. Yeah, so you don't have to look further than your life to find out what you believe. You've just got to look around and go, this is what I believe. This is the relationship I believe I deserve. This is the finance I believe I deserve. This is the car. This is the health. This is, you name it. You can just look around at your life. And it's very easy to look around at your life and then start to give yourself a hard time and go, what the hell is wrong with me? You know, I should be a millionaire, but I'm not. And I'm doing something wrong. There's no power in that, you know, because we kind of think, oh, giving myself a hard time, that there's some sort of, it's productive. That's one of the underlying things about giving yourselves a hard time. We think it goes somewhere, but it doesn't, because it's so old, you know. You just to think about it, like, how many times have you given yourself a hard time about things? And has it changed anything, really? Has the giving yourself a hard time changed anything? Not really, is it? It just goes on. So there's nothing new in it. So it's not efficient at all to give yourself a hard time about things. So you can skip over that bit not give yourself a hard time, and instead you can just view it as a kind of stock taking. You can kind of go, okay, so my current situation is the sum total of all the beliefs that have been foisted onto me by well-meaning adults. Most of them we get them in childhood. We either get negative beliefs or we just get no beliefs. Like we don't have a belief that a certain thing is possible, like that it's possible for you to be a millionaire, or it's possible. I'm not saying that's a big thing, but it's a thing a lot of people like. There may not be a belief there at all for that. So this thing of you don't get what you want, you get what you, or get who you are, it's very hard. It's very sobering, but it's really useful because it takes it out of the mystery. I don't mean the mystery the way I talk about it. There's no mystery about it. You can just look around. There it is. There it is, right in front of you for you to see. Everything, the stuff that's brilliant, and also the stuff that you'd like to change. And immediately you see it, then you can begin to change it. There's loads of ways of changing it. So it's sobering, but very useful if you use it without hurting yourself or being unkind. You don't get what you want, you get who you are. Beautiful. The next one says, today I am reminded of the infinite possibilities of my life. Anything that is possible for me. I have the courage to move into the unknown, knowing that everything is working in my favor. Anything that's possible is possible for me. Is that true? I think it is. Now, the thing with that is to balance it into what is really possible. So, for example, as I've said before, if you're 70, is it possible for you to be in a boy band? Yeah, probably not. Or a girl band. I don't mean like that. So, you've got to put it in context. But if there's a 70-year-old person who's run a marathon, and you've never run a marathon in your life, it's possible. So it's possible for me, if that's something you want to do. Because once one person does something, then it's into the field of possibility. So you can look around at anybody doing anything and go, well, they did it, so there's no reason why I can't do it. That's very helpful, isn't it? And then that's coupled with this idea of everything is working in my favor. Is that just positive thinking? I don't think so. But you have to get over a bit of, I don't know, cynicism, life experience, because we do, we have the hard knocks. We have the hard knocks in life, and it can feel like things are not working in our favor. So it requires a bit of looking at, a bit of close scrutiny to see, yeah, everything has been working in my favor the whole time. That, that takes a little bit of looking at. So it doesn't just, you can't just go, everything's working in my favor. Because if you don't see it, then you're just trying to brainwash yourself or hypnotize yourself into believing that, which some people can do, but I've found that it's much better it's there to be seen anyway, so you may as well just devote some time to reflecting on it and see how everything worked in your favor. And for some things, some very difficult things, if you've had some bad traumas, if you've been in difficult situations, it can take a while to get there. And I'm not talking about what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. That is usually used as a rationalization for suffering, which I'm not a big fan of. I don't mean it like that. Because when bad things happen, they're bad, they're awful. Trauma is terrible. If you've been in a traumatic situation, if you've had a trauma happen to you, it's awful. There's no two ways about it, it's awful. And it's very hard to kind of go, how was that working in my favor? What I am encouraging you to do is keep reflecting on it, and you will see, you will begin to find how it worked in your favor. And that's hard to do without kind of justifying it or making it okay. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm not talking about, oh, well, it made me stronger. Nope. No. I mean, I've had terrible things happen to me in my life. If I had to do my life again, would I want those things to happen to me again? No. That's what I'm talking about not like justifying suffering. You know, they were awful. You know, they shouldn't have happened. But I can see how in the bigger arc of my life and the way the person I became as a result of them, that they did work in my favor. Would I, do I think they should have happened? No. Did they make me stronger? Probably. Some of them made me weaker though. Some of them nearly destroyed me. So that doesn't really work. But did they work in my favor? Yes. So that takes a bit of internal legwork to get there with that, but it is possible. And then you can kind of, when you get to that, there's a certain kind of peace that comes with, you're not so kind of going, oh, I don't want bad things to happen to me. You're a little bit calmer about that because you kind of know whatever happens to me is happening in my favor. And that's not to say you go and court suffering. Don't think that's a good idea at all. You don't go looking for it. But when you are stepping forward, because that's the whole thing about, like there's a big difference between being in a car accident and driving past a car accident. They're two very different experiences. When you're in it, you're just in it. But when you're driving by it, you're imagining it. And we're a little bit like that. When we go to step forward, we're imagining the car accident that we might have. That doesn't help, because it makes you tentative in the next step. And that's, living a tentative life it's sort of got no juice. It's all the juice is sucked out of it because I don't want something to happen. Whereas when you can get to this thing of everything that's happened to me, everything that happens or everything is working in my favor, then you can boldly step out, even if that means you're stepping off a cliff unknowingly. It's much better to do it with all your being and all your energy and all your vitality than to be dithering, This doesn't make any difference. You're still going to step off. But at least you step off boldly. And most of the time, when you step forward with this expectation that everything is working in my favor, things generally go a lot better. Because it kind of harks back to what I was saying earlier on about we live in an attractive universe or an attractive reality, meaning we attract things to us, So if you are coming from this place of everything works in my favor, then you'll generally draw that to you. But because you're looking for it, our minds and our unconscious, we're always trying to gather evidence for this, for what our predominant beliefs are. So if your predominant beliefs are very terrible, frightening, and scary, you'll gather evidence for that. But if they're very much for things work in my favor, then that's what you'll see. The next one says, and yet here you are, despite the darkness you've experienced, choosing to spread light everywhere you go. And yet here you are, despite all the darkness you've encountered, spreading light wherever you go. That sounds lovely, but it's really hard for people who have experienced a lot of darkness to acknowledge that. Because if you've been through a very difficult, traumatic experience, particularly any kind of abuse or anything like that, part of it is the feeling that in some way you caused it to happen. And in some way you're the one who has the problem. And that makes it very hard to see what you're actually doing, meaning, you know, the person who is spreading light wherever they go, they generally don't know that they're doing that. They're just, in some ways, they're making very sure that they don't spread, you know, darkness, or they don't extinguish the light as where they go, because they know what that's like. So they're very clear on what they don't want to be spreading. But it's very hard for them, for you and I, to acknowledge that that is what we're doing, that we are spreading light wherever we go, and the effect that has, you know. Like, I've worked with people with their health for 30 years, maybe more at this stage, and I've been privileged to facilitate what would be considered miraculous changes in people's health. The health ones are more dramatic than the personal, but, you know, dramatic changes in people's lives. I've worked with, you know, kids who were headed down one particular road. They're going to be institutionalized or something like that, and they've changed completely, and they've become, you know, very different children, and their life's gone in a different direction. I've worked with people who've had life-threatening, you know, terminal diagnosis, and they've changed to not terminal diagnosis. I find it very hard to let that in. I find it very hard to kind of feel that. And that'll be because of the darkness I've encountered. And I don't think I'm unusual in that. I think it's just, it sort of comes with the territory. That we just, I mean, I make myself, I've forced myself to kind of acknowledge it and kind of go, yes, okay. Because the kind of work I do, like the way I work with people's bodies and systems is, I'm not doing anything to their system other than helping their system to do what it's already trying to do, to overcome whatever blockages or hurdles are there. So it's not like I'm going, you know, oh, I'm the one doing this. But I also have to acknowledge that, well, this is where they were before they came to see me. This is where they are when they finished. I had something to do with it. I helped in some way or another. But there's a part of me kind of wants to go, oh no, it was all their system. I just kind of, oh, you know, I was just there. I did a little bit, whatever, you know. And that comes from this, you know, when you've been exposed to and subject to intense kind of darkness, you naturally will go towards spreading light. I think everybody does that. But the hard thing is to acknowledge it. It's very hard to acknowledge it, and we have to. Because you know, it's part of, you know, your own healing to face the light that we are. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? You kind of go, but why would that be hard? But it is, you know. I can't remember who said it, but somebody once said something along the lines of, you know, we think we're afraid of our failures or our smallness, but really what we're really afraid of is our bigness. And I've found that to be true. I found that to be true with myself and with other people, that the really challenging thing is to let yourself be as big as you are and to acknowledge it. You know, I mean, one of the fears is, well, I'll just become big-headed. I'm just being arrogant, you know. If you've been exposed to a lot of darkness, I don't think that's going to happen. I really don't. there's a natural kind of inbuilt humility into it. And this idea of, oh, I don't want to become arrogant is a way of not feeling it, a way of not acknowledging it, you know. So yeah, I'd encourage you to, as you walk around, spreading the light wherever you go, to step to the side and just go, yeah, this is a lovely thing. What I'm doing here is a lovely thing. This smile I gave this person, this act of kindness I did, yes, I'm shedding and spreading the light as I go. You'll find out, you'll see how challenging it is to acknowledge it when you begin to see it or look for it. And I don't mean you tell anybody. It could be just between you and yourself, which is fine. But yeah, it's there to be seen. And I kind of think we have to. We kind of have to face it so that we can, it is in a way a kind of defiance against that darkness. So you kind of have to do it. And the last one says, even the darkest nights will end and the sun will rise again. There's a great song by an Irish band called the Hothouse Flowers, and it's called It'll Be Easier in the Morning. I recommend it to you. It's very good for this when things are not feeling great, when things are bad, when you're covered with emotional pain. It can seem unbearable, like I can't feel this for one more moment. I just can't. I can't bear it. You're on your knees, you've been sobbing your heart out, and it's not getting any better. And it feels like it might be even getting worse. And the feeling is, I can't take this. I can't take it. This idea that even the darkest night will end and the sun will shine, and this idea of the night, you know, and this song, it'll be easier in the morning. Sometimes that's all you've got. That's all you've got to get you through, is the knowledge that it will pass. And it's not very comforting knowledge. It doesn't make it easier in the moment. All it does is help you get to the next moment. Because that's all you have to do, is get to the next moment. You know, we sort of feel like, oh, I've got to feel better. Yeah, feeling better will come in the morning. You just have to make it to the next moment. My mind would like to kind of go, well, I want it to go away. Of course you want it to go away, it's pain. Nobody wants to be in pain. But it doesn't seem to work like that. The way it works is get to the next moment. That's all you can do, regardless of what kind of pain you've got going on. It's like you can't think about the end of it. All you can think of is getting to the next moment. And the thing that helps you get to the next moment, in my experience anyway, is the knowledge that it will pass. That it'll be easier in the morning. That the sun will rise again. Which when you're in it, when you're, you know, if it's only 1 a.m., the idea of like, oh, it'll be easier in the morning, it's like, well, that's like 6 or 7 hours away. I need the pain to stop right now. And there's something weirdly soothing about knowing that the pain is not going to stop right now. All I can do is get to the next moment. And then when I get to that moment, get to the next moment. Because it's like when people say, live in the moment. Which moment? You know, it's like, oh, live in the now, you know, come into the now. When you're in pain, that's like no help at all. Because the pain is you're in this continual moment of pain. It just doesn't, you know, the idea of a future, you're so in the moment of pain, you can't think of it. So in a way, the idea that the sun will shine and it'll be easier in the morning, it's kind of an abstract concept because you're so in the moment. But you can, it is the abstractness of it that actually gets you through. You know? Once you sort of stop trying to make it easier. I mean, gee, do everything you can to make it easier, for sure. Anything that'll make it easier, do it. Okay? But as you know, when it's really biting, nothing makes it easier, really. So it's in a way kind of accepting this is what's happening right now. It's awful. I wish it wasn't, but it is. And then this weird abstract concept of time. And my experience of, yeah, every time I've been here, it's passed. It has passed. I've got through it. So there's no good reason why this time's going to be any different. There's no good reason why this time it's going to stay forever. It's going to be forever in this moment. That's all you got. That's all you have. And to not listen to any of the voices inside that are saying, you know, there's a way out of this pain. There isn't. When you're in it, there isn't. Any way out you think that there is, there isn't. Okay. The only thing I've found that helps is to breathe into, this is what's happening now. It's excruciating. I feel like I can't bear it. To kind of accept that and go, yeah, I'm completely overwhelmed by this pain right now. And I don't think I'm going to get through it. To kind of accept that. And go, so I'm not going to get through this, but I can just get to the next moment. Because if you keep doing that, eventually the sun will come up, morning will come, and it will get easier. But if it's a weird kind of thing, if you are trying to get to the morning never comes. Or, well, it does, but it, you know, the pain doesn't ease, and it makes it worse in a way. Whereas when you kind of go, I'm overwhelmed, I'm floored, I'm winded by this pain, I'm on the floor, completely winded by this. And you're not trying to resist it, and you're not trying to distract yourself from it or anything like that. You've done everything you can to make it easier. It's still there. And you're just with it as much as you can, and knowing that it just is the way it is for now. This eternal now, and that it's awful. And then you have this weird concept of this too will pass. Because everything has passed. There's no reason why this won't pass. All I have to do is just keep getting to the next moment. And then the sun will come up and it will be easier in the morning. So if you're in pain, I hope that helps. And if you're in pain, you know, you can always reach out to me. You can always get in touch. Lots of people do. And just sometimes just even talking about it, writing it down, writing the email, sometimes that can help. So yeah, john@furtheremergence.com. But yeah, while you're waiting, just get to the next moment. Just make that your focus. It's like crossing the desert, you know? Can't see anything on the horizon. What's the point? What's the point of taking the next step? But, you know, if you keep walking, eventually you'll suddenly go, oh, I'm out of the desert. All right, that's all I have for you this time. I trust you're well. I trust you're of good cheer. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.